Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. My name's Connor Williams, joined by Callum Brannan, and we are doing a monthly review of August. It's been a month. It's been a big month. First things first, we've got the Everton Roma friendly on the 10th of August. Keeping it very brief, it was 1-1. What were your thoughts on the game, Cal?
Uh, I think honestly, it gave me a slight bit of optimism going into the season. I know Roma aren't exactly the team they were 10, 15 years ago where they were competing for Serie A titles, but they were always in and around those European spots. I know they've dipped out a bit recently. They've got their big players like Dybala, and I mean, you look at what they've done this summer. I think a few of the players came in after or just before we played them, so they weren't really involved in the squad. But of course, still players like Dybala. You saw the ambition this summer, and of course, I think it was a game with a bit of sour behind it because, of course, there was a reason this friendly happened originally. It was meant to be the big celebration of the new ownership, blah blah blah, a coming together of the clubs. It wasn't that. So I think that did help the atmosphere a little bit though watching it, but I think it's just one of those where it's a friendly you don't take any of the friendlies seriously, really. But I thought, it was a little bit more of a positive sign of what was to come. And then, of course, everything after that sent us all back down to earth.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was meant to be a friendly to celebrate the new ownership, and in turn, sort of ended a bit sourly. Moving on from that, we had the first game of the season on the 17th, which was the 3-0 loss to Brighton. Um, Give me your thoughts on this because it a tough game. I thought if we took our chances and Decore could have stayed on side, there were opportunities where I think if we got the first goal, the game would have changed slightly. I feel like first half, we were okay, and then just sort of fell away in the second. What were your thoughts when you were watching it?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where it was interesting. I think it's one where the scoreline doesn't really represent how the game went. And I think a lot of it as well is I think a lot of what you've got to look at is how the game changed in the second half, like you said, compared to the first. And I think it's one of those as well where if you look at it's one of those games where you'll play a team at the start of the season, and so let's say probably Aston Villa last season are the easiest example. You play them, and you're like, oh, okay, we shouldn't really be getting thumped by a team like that, and then they go on and they start beating teams, beat United. I think they're still in the top four now. I don't know. Have they lost a game yet? I'm not sure if they've lost a game yet. But again, Brighton have looked like one of the better sides in the league so far. They look confident. They look like killers going forward. And I think they showed that in the fact that they are. The thing is that separates a team like Brighton and a team like us is they're able to only get two big chances a game, but still score three goals. They're able to turn, 1.4 XG into double that three goals. I don't think our defending helped, and I think shockingly that's been a story of the season so far. I think, of course, Ashley Young comes on. I don't know. No, did he start Ashley Young? Either way, Ashley Young doesn't Ashley Young. And, bloody I don't want to harp over this month, and I don't want to start going to play. It shows why he's probably the worst player in the entire league. To be honest, gets himself a silly sending off really early on, and I know we were already 2-0 down at that point, but I think the game really changed from there. I just think we never looked like getting back into it, and then of course, this. I just think looking here, looking back at it, it looks really like. I mean, you can see it if you go on things like FootMob and look at the momentum charts for a large until around. Let me see here the 63rd minute, it's back, forth, back. We've probably got a majority of the control of the game. The 64th minute, as soon as Ashley Young gets sent off, 10 men, we can't get back into the game. Brighton absolutely take over. And I think that's where a lot of Brighton stats come from. But I think it's one of those where, like you said, if Takori could have stayed on side, maybe if we would have started Illiman and Dye, if you look at how he's performed in more recent games, we've maybe able to have really got a foothold into the game, but we weren't able to. Yeah, I think this game, out of all the games we've played, is ironically, even though we got battered, is the one with the least concerns, and even including the Bournemouth game in that. I think this is the one that showed that this team could be decent, but they just need to take the chances and then just need to stop making silly mistakes in defence.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just a tough one, isn't it? Brighton, like you said, they haven't lost this season at all, and they held Arsenal to a draw. That's a really great result for them. New manager as well, so new manager bounce, different formation. They could be one to watch this season, so I'm not that upset about it. Obviously, we then move on to the 21st of August. Reports of Texter being in Liverpool to hold talks with Mashiri. We might as well just go through the whole Texter stuff from him getting, is it the exclusive period, they call it, to now. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think he's real or?
I don't know because I think this is one where I think it's one of those business things where they're dipping their hands in multiple pies. I think is the expression, but they're sat. It's clear what he's doing, and I think we. I don't know if it had got mentioned at this point or it got mentioned a little bit later in the month. What he was trying to do is he was using us in a sense to try get these take over a palace completely. And I don't think that's exactly what it was, but I think a lot of it was if he uses us, he's either going to get to take over Palace or he's going to be able to sell Palace and take over us. So I think it's one of those things where I think he's. Do you know what I'll say about him is he's ran multiple clubs and he hasn't ran him into the ground like 777. You know, he's clearly still interested, and you look at the transfers we made later on in the month and the players we were linked with. Lately, there's some interest because there was a lot of business with one of his clubs, Leon. I think it's one where, yeah, because I think at this point anything's better than Mashiri. I don't expect someone to come in and splash hundreds of millions of pounds like he did in the early years, but I think Texter would be nice or would have been just because of the sense of stability it would have offered.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's still to be seen whether he actually takes over. It's a lot. There's a lot for him to do. He's like you said, he's got to figure out what he's doing with Palace, and then he's got to sell his shares if they don't let him take over fully. So I feel like he's using us as a plan B, a bit of a bargaining chip, but also as a parachute. So if they say no, he'll still have a Premier League club. He'll just buy us, but we're talking months down the line for that to happen because he's got to sell shares and stuff like that. 23rd of August, Begovic returns to the club as well. This one, there's not really much to say, really. He's going to be the Lonergan, isn't he? Sort of the older head to help the youngsters. Um, your thoughts on it, if there are any? Like I said, it's not a major
Um,
signing, is it?
I like it because it's one of those where he was clearly well liked within the club, liked by the fan base. His wife with a horse stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. They clearly like the fan base, so I think it's one of those where it's a nice morale booster, especially when the way it looks like this team's going to be getting tonked every other week. It's nice to have someone who can at least bring the morale up after stuff like that.
Yeah, his wife seems to really I think she did it again, didn't she, with a horse, with the horse. She seems to really get it. And then obviously 24 for that month, 4-0 thrash into Tottenham Hotspur. This was when I think the mood was slowly on the turn. I personally expected to get beat by Spurs. They're a very good team. It's not the worst I've seen Spurs thrash us by a mile. It wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but it's not the worst Spurs thrashing I'd seen. Um, it's tough, but they are a top team. They are a top team that I think, although they've had a tough start drawing with Leicester and losing to Newcastle, will probably equal out being okay at the end of the season. Um, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. It's a bit annoying by how many goals we're getting beat. Obviously, I understand people say, 4 goals is a lot. And it didn't we had 10 shots, but none of them of any real quality.
No.
What were your thoughts on the game?
I think again, it's one where and I was sat thinking this before I opened the tab here, and I was like, I remember after Spurs scored, we took control of the game for like a solid 5 or 6 minutes, and I think we might have had two or three of our shots in that 10 minutes, and I just seem to remember it, and it's that part of the game that sticks out to me because is it the Basuma worldie the first one where I think Basuma scores the first one where he absolutely whacks it from the edge of the box and it goes in, and that's one of those goals where you look at it and go, really, some people on Twitter and stuff will go, oh, well, they could have closed him out. No, that's like saying it's the same thing with when Idrissa Gueye scored those long shots. No one expects that to go in. It rattles in off the crossbar, 1-0. We seem to find a foothold, but once again lose it, and it's a confidence thing. It's clearly a confidence thing. I don't want to dig at someone like Michael Keane because you know what? I think Tarkovsky's been just as bad as Keane, if not worse, to be completely honest with you. But you just look at it and you look at the just absolute. There's no clue what anyone's doing. Um, I think Robinham gets away with it in a sense because he's been really good every other game, and again, there's no stability around him. So when he wants to press up to win the ball, which is clearly what he's best at, we've seen it. I think he's been one of the three players, maybe two or three players that actually we sit and go, all right, he's a good player. The team around him just doesn't help. And I think when he wants to push up, win the ball up high, and create chance, he's a box to box midfielder. Can't really do that when the entire team around you's falling apart. I I don't think Pickford's been very good either. What was the game? Was it this game he made a couple of good saves, but or was it Brighton?
Could have been Brighton. I know he's had
I think it was. Yeah,
yeah,
it was. Yeah, it was. But I think the rest of the games he's been um, really out of character for himself. Which again, just off the Euros, had a break. I understand at the start of the season that can happen, and I think when Pickford finds his form, we have to worry. I think again, I'm just looking at the lineup here. Mikolenko's stunk in every game he's played.
he's had a rough
Dixon,
start.
Yeah, Mikolenko's had. Dixon looks good. I'm looking at this and I don't know how he's got a 5.6. I don't know where they've pulled that number from. I'm guessing from when he had to go against Son towards the end of the game when Son moved out left. But I thought he was good. I thought he did really well against Odegaard. And that's saying something because I think Odegaard looked lively and I think Dixon was able to keep him out, looks really quick. Um, wasn't really able to get forward much because I think that's unfortunately. I think the way we play with Harrison hugging the byline, you don't really want a fullback underlapping him.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he's a fullback. He's not going to cut inside and shoot. You don't really want fullbacks underlapping unless they are that Pep Guardiola style fullback who are really technical. Dixon might be, but it's his first start for the club in a competitive sense, I think. But so you just look at it and go, why would we do that? But yeah, I think this game was disappointing. I think Dwight McNeil looked good, but besides that, and Dixon, but besides that, I just it's one of those where it's same fashion to the Brighton game. You just look at it and go, we deserve to lose, but that scoreline it's really flattered Spurs.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting you mentioned Dwight McNeil because I thought he played well in this game, and I know he's been getting a bit of stick, but I think I saw is it the other 14, the Twitter account that does the stats for the other 14 clubs in the Prem, and Dwight McNeil's one of the most chances created, which reminds me a bit of Onana last year where he was creating chances and people were like, oh, what's he bringing to the team? And Iwobi when Iwobi was here. And people are like,
Mm.
what's he bringing to the team? Because nobody's finished them. So people don't notice the chances he's creating. But he's actually our only creative player.
Oh well, I think there's a common denominator of it, and I think he redeemed himself in the Bournemouth game. But if all these players are servicing chances, there's only one person who has to put them away. And a lot of Everton fans will go, "Well, we don't create the chances for Calvert-Lewin." Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I think we've got so much better at creating chances, and they're not the best chances. And I understand Calvert Lewin's got knees made out of jelly at this point, but it's one of those things where the ball's fizzed into him. I think he makes runs a little late. I think that's his problem. And I think the big thing with Calvert Lewin is I think part of him still thinks he's athletically what he was under Ancelotti 4 years ago. A certain amount of knee injuries are going to take that bounce out. You can still jump and win the ball, but you remember the stuff he used to do against Ancelotti. He'd basically jump over defenders to win headers. He'd do some absolutely ridiculous things athletically, but I think he doesn't have all that anymore. Still think he's quite athletic. I think he's surprisingly athletic for how many knee injuries and stuff he's had. And I think now he tries to play a bit more technically, he tries to come deep, get everyone, which I actually think he's not bad at. But I think with the way we play, we can't have a striker coming in deep and then trying to burst forward because it doesn't suit our style of play. We're eventually going to talk about a new manager because I think it's got to get brought up with the reception after the Bournemouth games. I'll save the possibility that Calvert-Lewin could improve under someone else, but I think it's just one of those where, at the end of the day, weirdly the tables have turned this season where creating the chances isn't the problem. It's now more finishing the chances off and defending, which is weird because it's almost the complete opposite of last season.
Yeah, I agree. And then obviously we've got moving on from the Spurs game as well. We've got Doncaster, which was our only win so far this season. Obviously a 3-0 win in the League Cup. I know it's Doncaster, so it should have been expected. But it was nice to see a couple of the lads get a run out that were new. We got to see Ndai, got to see Lindstrom for a bit. Beto even got a run out. That was an interesting mark for me watching Beto against Doncaster because albeit he got his goal, a lot of the time I was watching a lad receive the ball at his feet, turn around and run straight into a defender for some reason. I think up until his goal, he showed he works hard, he works really hard, and he chases stuff down that I don't think many strikers chase down. Um, but I just think with the ball at his feet, um, I think I think his decision making's poor, and I think there's a reason when we signed him, people were going who had seen him were going, he's better running on at balls. Yeah, you could tell if the ball was in front of him and he was running on it, he'd do all right. He's just not very good at. He's not very good for how we play, which is ball either up to him higher up, or to his feet, because his first reaction is to turn and run straight into a defender. But give me your thoughts on the Doncaster game because it was nice to see some of the new lads out, and I had a really good game.
Yeah, and Dye was again. I think the thing is here as well is it's going to. I think and Dye kind of showed the quality he had, and then he did it again in the Bournemouth game. So I think that's one of those ones where fans might have been like, "Oh, well, it's Doncaster." They were, I think, what are they, League Two? Yeah, decent League Two team. One of the ones that look like they could get promoted, but at the same time, it's a League Two team. You know, so it's one of those where I think it took us a lot longer to get into the game than expected, and I know we dominated a lot, but I think Doncaster played really well, to be honest, for a League Two team coming up against a Premier League team. I think O'Brien looked quite good. I think I know again it's Doncaster, but in my mind, I don't see how you look at an O'Brien performance and then not going to Bournemouth thinking, well, maybe Keane or Tak, either of them. I wouldn't have minded him booting either of them out, to be honest with you, because I think O'Brien, I think he lost the ball a few times with passes, and I guess Dyche's logic is, well, we don't want to lose the ball against the Premier League team because they can catch us, but also at the same time, there's no willingness to take a risk in this team, and you have to be willing to take risks for the style we play. You have to be able to, and I think Beto's one where, again, you're right. But I think this also shows one of the problems with Dyche, and it's a problem with a few managers we've had. Rafa Benitez being one, Martinez, another one. There's the unwillingness to make any sort of change to something that clearly doesn't work. He's still trying to play the same style of football he plays with Calvert-Lewin. And, it's like being given two completely different tools and trying to use them the same way. It's like trying to use a screwdriver and a wrench the same way or something like that. You're not going to get the same results out of them. It's obvious. But I think it's one of those where I like Bell's performance, but I think it was the same thing last year against Doncaster as well. He looked really well, and I think it's because I think the Beto running into people thing is I think he just likes a physical battle, and I think his brain just goes, I can out sprint you or I can out strength you, and sometimes it doesn't work because obviously some defenders just go, I'm just going to kick the ball away, mate. I don't care about tackling you and keeping the ball. Especially a lot of these League Two teams will look at it and go, they're not trying to do the Man City thing of win the ball, progress it. No, if they just want to win the ball, they'll just boot it and they'll boot you to get to it. And I think it showed because Beto were getting lumps kicked out of him that game because why wouldn't they? If Beto's got a physical advantage and I know the referee's going to be a bit lenient, yeah, I'm gonna kick you a few times to get away with it. It's natural. Well, I think Lindstrom looked disappointing, but again, I think there were some positive signs in getting on immediately, getting a shot on target. But again, I think every Everton fan who's seen any Lindstrom or knows anything about him from articles, from videos, knew he was probably going to have an adjustment period. But yeah, I think it's hard. I think Robinham looked good again. I think it's the same positives that have been here all season in like Robinham and Ndai. And I think the rest of the players were just what you'd expect against a League Two team, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say this. I saw, yeah, Beto. I mean, I only say the running because this isn't the first game, and he does. I worry a little bit. He gives me Portuguese Umar Nias vibes at times, but again, takes an adjustment period coming from that Italian league. We're seeing it with Lindstrom. I think it's just a tough league to come from to the Premier League and try and catch the pace. But it was good to see him against the League Two team because, like you said, people say the Premier League's physical. Down there, it's not quite the same pace and quality, but it's just as physical, if not slightly more. The lower down you go, people will kick you, and it's a good way to learn quickly. Moving on from that, though, we then had deadline day. Obviously, I mean, moving into deadline day, I wasn't expecting much. Obviously, we got Moypay to Marseille, which I think is a decent enough because I don't think he was going to get games here, and I'm hoping he stays there past the loan because the way the agency hires to run his Twitter account behaved, or him himself because he hires an agency on the last day hasn't exactly left Everton fans, wanting him to do well. So he's not a popular lad, and I can't see him coming back any more popular than he left. But we also got Holgate as well to West Brom, and then Mangala on loan with no option to buy, which I think is a good. I think that's fine. And Brozier to Everton with an option to buy of 30 million, and the more important one is we don't pay his wages till he is back on the field, which I think is very nice considering he's out till is it October, November time he's out for. So
October, I think he's back here.
yeah, so still quite a still like a 2 month, a month, essentially a month and a half of no player. But yeah, talk to us about deadline day. I don't think it was the most exciting deadline day I've ever seen at Everton, but I don't think it was the worst. It was definitely more than I was expecting.
I think it was one of those that where, you know, when the group of us were looking at it towards the end of it, we were like, oh, this is a bit. And I think a lot of us expected it, but at the same time, we were like, you can't look at the way these fullbacks have performed and not go try get someone else. You can't do it. I think because I think a lot of the thing about deadline day is you look at how the first few games have gone and you adjust. I refuse to believe there wasn't someone we could have got on loan or even on a free. There are probably three players that have just left championship teams that are miles better than Ashley Young defensively. Because don't get me wrong, Ashley Young, to be fair, can still cross the ball decently and get it forward decently. Fella can't defend. But after I think in my brain, I sit and go, there's no one on a loan. And now I kind of see probably why we didn't do the loan. I feel like we knew the entire day that Broja could have happened. I think there was a feeling at the club that we could have got Broja in, and we knew we probably could have mugged Chelsea off when it comes to actually the fees involved and the wages, because we saw what Chelsea were doing. They were just shopping off anyone who they could. I think I think a lot of it, a fullback would have been nice, especially when the rumours of Kieran Trippier started around. And it's not like those rumours were coming from crap sources. It was straight from David Ornstein's mouth, which is, arguably the most reliable journalist in the country. If you go on a nationwide scale anyway. So I think it was one of those where it looked like the club were looking at fullbacks, but then again, I think I feel like the other national loan now was being saved for Broja the entire time. Mangle is one where I don't know because he seems like I don't know because like is he going? Why replace Robinham now when Robinham's done well? Mangala's a similar style to Robinham and Decore more than a Trezeguet. So it's like if we were going to bring in a midfielder, probably someone more on a Trezeguet's kind of play. We've got Garner, unless he plans to move Garner to right back, which is something a lot of fans have mentioned and I agree with. He can't be worse than what we've already got there. Garner at right back. He can't. And I just think Patterson's one where is Patterson ever going to be fit? Nobody knows at this rate. So I don't know if that's going through the mind when they went through this, but I do think it ended up being above average at the end, and I do think the Broja deal is mainly because of that. I'm someone who came on this channel a few times and said I wouldn't like us to sign Broja, but I think that was at the time taking everything in the fee, which was probably like around what we got the option to buy for, and again paying his wages, which are probably decent because he's at Chelsea. But then him coming in, no wages being paid till he comes back. I can't imagine we're paying 100% of his wages even when he comes back, to be brutally honest with you. look at what they've done with Sterling and Arsenal. They're just sold. They've just give Sterling to a rival and are still paying like 60% of his wages. So I feel like we'll probably be paying 50, 75% of his wages. But yeah, I think it ended up being good. I wish we could have got a fullback, but I think, uh, I think I woke up at like 3 in the morning or something, randomly in the middle of the night, checked my phone. I was like, oh, okay, that's happened then about Broya. So I think it's one way it went from average to above average to good. And do you know what? I will say I think you can clearly see an impact of it already because I think I find it a bit of a weird coincidence now. As soon as Calvert-Lewin gets some proper competition, goal and an assist.
Yeah, I think like you said, that Bro one came so late in the day. But the club finally got their man. They've been chasing him for like the last four windows. It finally they've got him. It's good that it's under this situation because fresh slate. Let's see what he does. If he's not very good, we don't have to buy him. He'll go back to Chelsea, and hopefully that means the obsession with him will die then, and the club will go, "We had him, didn't set the world alight. Let's leave it." Or he smashes it out the park. We find 30 million from somewhere next summer, and we sign him, and it's brilliant. It's a real it could be a big win, but it's also no loss for us. There are benefits to both sides. So I think it's a smart deal. And like you said, I think we just took advantage of the fact Chelsea are. I'm not too sure what they're doing, but it's not good. I think we just took advantage of them having far too much. The Mangala one stinks of just Texter being involved with the club and Leon. It stunk of that a bit because, like you said, he's a very similar ilk to what we already have, and I think it's not if like I agree with you. I think a fullback was a priority, left or right. We need one of each, to be honest. But when we were looking for a midfielder, I was like, that we do need a midfielder, but not of the same ilk as the ones we've got. We need a sitter. He's just going to sit behind, just in front of the back four, and offer that defensive stability. And then when we got him, I was like, that's not it. That's not what we needed. We'll see how he does if he does have any game time because, like you said, that midfield slot now. Bearing in mind with Endai playing now, we could probably drop the Core back to centre mid. That midfield slot's quite healthy now. We only played two and we've got like four.
Yeah, one thing I will say is not none of the signings on deadline day felt like Dyche signings. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And I feel like that's, you know, I'm trying to think of the word. It shows what the club might be thinking, and I'll give the credit to someone like Felwell. If Felwell's gone and got these deals, and in the back of his head's like, Dyche might not be able to keep his job here. Yeah, all of a sudden now we bring in a manager who plays free in midfield, plays a 4-3-3. Everyone's suddenly going to be like, "Oh, it's a good thing we got Mangala in." I feel like a bit of that is at play here, or injuries as well. Look at how unreliable injury Garner seems to always miss a few weeks. Decore does seem to miss a few games a season. Idrissa is ancient now. I think Idrissa Gueye had a weird career turnaround at Everton where he went from everyone wanting him out to that really good run at the end of last season. Has not really kept it up this season, but again, he's not been bad. I can't think of one bad, but again, I think it reeks of, to be fair, something I'm not disappointed with is that the thing is with Mangala is just going, do you know what? It's an option. We always get injured. You know what? It's decent to have, which I don't mind. And I can imagine the club was shopping around. So I think if it's one of those things where they say and go, we're not getting a fullback, do we get this lad in just in case we get midfield injuries? I'm guessing there's some sort of thought process going in, and I get this might be me giving them the benefit of the doubt, but of them going, well, we'll probably be able to get a fullback in January. We might be able to get someone on the cheap in January because they haven't played a game. Trippier might have played one game because Livramento's kept him out. There's other names I can think of, but unfortunately, all those other names I can think of are more old Everton signings where we sign them but give them massive wages, even if the fee's cheap. So I think it's one of those where hopefully there's something in January. Or like I said, I wouldn't shock me if James Garner gets moved to right back on more of a full time basis, or Dixon's given a chance and we're just going. Do you know what? Looks like we're going to be in the same position as last season. Might as well give these young lads a chance.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not Dyche. The Mangala one, because he's come from Leon, stinks of an ownership, sort of shaking hands between two. And Brozier, we've been after him for donkeys. I think he is fully Felwell. I think Felwell's finally got his man.
I'm positive Wolves wanted him when he were there as well. Absolutely certain Wolves wanted him after the Southampton loan, but I think they ended up signing Cunha instead.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting. I mean, I'm open. I wasn't like you. I wasn't up for the fee and the wages when we were trying to get him permanently. But for this, I can't really complain. I think this is a you know win-win sort of thing, or at least win no real risk. So yeah, I'm pretty
I,
happy with that.
I think with Broja as well is you look at how he played for. I think he looked good for Albania in the Euros. I think he looked very good, and I think he was playing a very similar style of football where he was the only one up top. He had to make things do. I think the one thing I'll say with Broja compared to Calvert-Lewin and Beto is he is much better with the ball at his feet and being able to make something out of nothing. He's not Ronaldinho, but I think there's more with him to be able to beat a man one on one and then get a shot off. And I think that might be it because I think if you look at it, we have three strikers of very different ilks. I think Broja is more aligned with someone a bit like how Chimiti plays. I think those two are quite similar. And then I think you've got Calvert-Lewin who's on his own up stratosphere. And then Beto who's like, Calvert-Lewin tries to play a more technical striker role now. Beto's big physical, give me ball and I run striker.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's good in one way, but it's also bloody awful in the other that we never seem to be able to get the striker profile linked, put down to one ilk. But moving on, we'll have to talk about the fantastic collapse that was Everton and Bournemouth. Um, this was a peak. Everton is the best way. I thought the Newcastle 2-2 a couple of seasons back will never be beaten. And I mean, we'll get into it, and it was good. It was really, really good up until it wasn't because Ndai was fantastic. He was running at players. It's been a long time since I've seen an Everton player run at players with that confidence and that like, oh my gosh, he could do something here. We had them on the back foot for most of the game, and then spectacularly, as soon as the first goal went in, I said I was watching it at home with my parents. I was like, we'll lose this. And they were like, surely not. And I was like, yeah, I've seen this before. Second one went in, and the third one was coming because they scored, we kick off, and we just were put straight back under the pressure. Been defending balls all game and then fell to a couple of balls into the box, which Deitch mentioned in his press conference. And I will say this before I ask you your thoughts. People are going to blame the subs, and I do think taking off the two lads that were in form was a silly thing to do. Although at 2-0 in the 87th minute, he probably thought the game was done, as we all did. I will say this though, as much as the manager's getting flack, he took two attacking players off. That means that there are still 9 players on the pitch. None of them that came off were defensive players. Okay, Irobanum probably should have come off because he looked knackered, and maybe that's where the substitutions was wrong. He needed to come off because he looked shattered. But still, it was peak Everton, and the back four didn't help. Mikalenko had a stinker. The whole back four did. The players have to hold a lot of responsibility for mentally folding like that because it was spectacularly bad to watch. They all folded under the pressure. Which makes you wonder how they've even got to this level if they can't hack that level of pressure in a game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I'm going to preface this by saying my entire watching of this game is through extended highlights and thinking I was not at home. I was at Nottingham and in Nottingham, and ironically, what you said, I was looking at my mate. It's the 86th minute. I can promise to God this as well. Just before they score, I look at the score, go 2-0, and I laugh at my mate and go, "Oh no, we'll lose this." He goes, "No, you won't. You're 2-0 up. Don't be silly." I went, "All right, watch." 30 seconds later. Bournemouth have scored one. I looked at him and went, watch. Second one goes in a few minutes later. And I just looked at it, and because again, like you said, I'm not even watching the game. And just from the commentary on Sky, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen. And I think it's one where I don't want to blame Dyche fully, but like surely as a manager, you can see he's blowing out of his ass. He's been ripped apart already, Mikolenko, the entire game. Seamus Coleman's 907 years old and he's getting ran at by someone half his age. He's naturally gonna, what? And it's not like the thing is, I'm trying to get the full benches up here. Let me see if I can get it. So we had Jake O'Brien, Roman Dixon, James Garner, who can all play defensive roles on the bench. Probably young if we had to. Oh, I don't know why he's saying he's there actually when he was suspended. But and you look at it and go, why not? And I think the simple difference is Bournemouth used their subs, we didn't.
Yeah,
You look at
Gordon
the
should have
subs
come
who,
on.
yeah, you look at the subs who come on. Sinistera scores the winner. From what I read, Utara changed it for them as just running at us, and they brought on players who'll run at us. It's that simple. Alex Scott will run at us, more of a deep line player. Utara run at us. Sinistera is going to run at us. It's Let's put it brutally honest. It's Sean Dyche being massively outcoached by a better manager because that's what's happened. Iriola's probably looked at our players and gone, I don't think he's gone, we can win this. I'll be brutally, I bet he sat there and thought, we can get two against these. We can 100% get two against these. And then he's probably seeing them get one and go, yeah, we've got these here. I think they knew. I think you can tell by the Bournemouth players reacted after the game. They knew they had us. And I think it's as simple as it's a lot of the players' fault for being crap. It doesn't change. Or I mean, you look at the player ratings again. I didn't watch the game fully, but if I look at Michael Keane, how do you get a 6.5 and score a goal? You know what I mean? From every football game I've ever watched, you can be crap, and if you score, you'll get a 7.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
was particularly.
I think,
I mean, they were all bad. They were all bad for the last
yeah,
10 minutes. They were good
like I said,
until they weren't.
I think it's one of those where you just look at it and go, you've got to be able to make changes as a manager. And Sean Dyche, I like Dyche and I want him to stay. I will preface that because I just think if we're going to sack him, wait. It's a bit sad to Dyche. Wait till the end of the season, or wait until maybe someone else gets sacked and you go, if we go in now, we can get him. I kind of I get why Everton in the past have done it early, the October, November, because it gives them a month with the team. Then we get January. I get that. But again, I get bringing Moyes in, but do we really want David Moyes? Because we're just going to. I don't want to see the fan base turn on David Moyes. None of us want to see that because it's what's going to happen. That he'll lose his first 3 games because he'll be trying to figure out his best lineup. Everyone will turn on him, and then all of a sudden we'll start winning games, and he's the second coming of himself in a sense.
As you were saying, yeah. Funnily enough, the manager did mention this with the fan base and the 1 minute you're a hero, 1 minute you're a zero, and it went down dreadfully. But I just feel like people who want Moyes might be remembering it with blue tinted glasses because, not to be funny, but when there were rumours that Ken Wright kept wanting to re-employ him, throughout the times we haven't had a manager, fans didn't really like it and were like,
Yeah.
saying, him picking his favourite. Um, and now fans are like, oh, let's get him back. And he has done well and he's done really well at West Ham. And I think he is a good manager. But I feel like the things that people don't like about Dyche, Moyes is susceptible to doing as well in terms of the subs can sometimes let a game run past. Um, there are things that West Ham fans were irked by him, and there are similar things that our fans don't like about Dyche. So I just feel like they're different in terms of formation and stuff like that, but they're quite similar in other aspects. And one of them being the things you don't like about one manager, the other manager is susceptible to doing. Also, I've heard Dyche's, even though he's in his last year, the clause to sack him, I've heard is one of the more expensive in the league.
Oh
which
yeah.
makes me think you're better sitting it out.
Just say
Um,
out.
and see what the new era brings. But also, I like him, but I want to put it out there. This is my personal opinion, but I think that it shows the state of football today and the reactionary. And I don't know if it's podcasts and all that bringing it, or football's always been this reactionary. But the fact we're on about sacking a manager 3, 4 games in, he's lost all his games in August since managing us, is crazy. And we're not
Yeah.
the only club because Carlisle sat their manager 2 games in. Uh,
Yeah. There's talk of Spurs fans wanting Postecoglou out.
yeah,
There's um, Preston sacked
yeah, they
Ryan
sat
Law
theirs.
after a game, or Ryan Law left. I think it's like you said, it's very reactionary. And do you know what? Ironically, the post about Dyche losing all these games in August has given me more faith in him
Yeah,
because I know it's weird, but I think the bloke might just be cursed in August.
I was
Because
gonna
what is it?
say
2 wins in 25 games or something like that. I mean,
football cliches do happen as well. It's like when like Onana's guaranteed to score against us when we come back from the break, guaranteed because that's
oh
just
yeah, but I think
scripture.
uh, yeah, Villa account put it up and it was like, oh, Everton lose the first 2 games, Everton against us, and it's that 2002 Brazil team. It'll happen.
Yeah, like it's just some
We
things in
might lose the
football.
game, but there's going to be like a 20, 30 minute period where we're all over Villa and everyone's going to be like, so where was this besides the Bournemouth game? And everyone's going to be like, oh, see, it's not that bad. My thing is with Dyche is if we're going to get rid of him, when I don't think we're going down this season.
No, I don't think we are
I,
either. I
I
think
think if you want to look at style of play, everyone except Southampton looks better than us. But Ipswich can't buy a win either. I think they've got a point where we've got none, but at the same time, Ipswich are going down. You can just tell it's Luton all over again. You can just tell by the way. Like I like that they go for it, and it shows it can work sometimes. But look at the Man City game. Smodics gets that goal. Ipswich fans are like, wait a minute, we might get to bang, bang, bang. City have scored 3. I think, and it's happened in every game they've played. They took it to Liverpool, bang, bang, done. I think it, and I think it's one of them where, again, I think we need to look. I think it's the fact that we're very lucky in the gap between the promoted teams and the and the rest of the league now. And I think we are very lucky in a fact because I do think 6, 7 years ago, these past 3 years, we've done a Sunderland. We've just plummeted. I don't think we've gone down again, but I think in most years we'd have gone down.
next year with the ten.
Not last year, more of a sense, but the years before that. I think last year was one where again we were mainly down there because of the points deduction. It didn't really have anything to do with actual performance.
No, but it
You know,
shows the weakness of the league. Any other year, 10 point deduction with the points we had would have put us down.
oh
Like
yeah,
not being funny to Luton, but they'd have never stayed up in the previous years with the points they got.
and you know what? What would we have ended up with? What did we end up with? 40.
I think so, something like that.
So we would have had 52 points, which is very good mid-table finish.
It puts
And
us
that's why I think Dyke deserves more credit. But I think
puts
it's
us near
well, it's
Luton. Sorry, it puts us near Brighton, who we've just at the earlier on in this spoke about potentially being like a Villa
dark horses for
of this
Europe.
year.
Yeah, I think as well, what you've got to look at it as I'm trying. I think I'm losing track here when you do this and you forget what you're going to say. But I think it's one of those where I've completely lost it. I think, you know, oh, it's not coming to me. This is really going to annoy me. And I think no, it's gone. It's completely gone. I might recover this in a second, but it's completely gone.
But yeah, it's just like it's one of them. It's with like the gap gets bigger and bigger each year, and I think that does help us and has helped us because having a 10 point deduction in 10 years ago would have seen you go. Um, but like I don't think we'll go down. I think weirdly you say about Styles. I think if the likes of Ipswich and Luton last year were a bit more conservative once they took leads, they'd have had a better fight. It's the fact that they don't. In the same way people go, "Oh, Dyche doesn't change his style." Some of these teams don't. Theirs is just fancier. They try and play football like that, and don't. I don't think they change once they go a goal up, or if they get a goal, which is I don't know. I mean, you could argue it worked, so why not? But also, the Prem's tougher. There's better quality. You're gonna have to shut up shop at some point.
I think a lot of it is it's just if you're a manager, you're selfish as well. You look at Kieran McKenna. Kieran McKenna finishes 18th, but he nicks a point against City. He beats Liverpool. He gets a win against Chelsea. Takes 4 points off Man United. All of a sudden, Man United then goes when they end up finishing eighth this season again. Ten Hag, see you later, mate. Kieran McKenna, you worked with us before under Jose Mourinho. Come back. It's a simple strategy, and I have now remembered exactly what I was going to say before. Um, you look at it, we had a 10-point deduction and still finished like 12 points above Luton. Where I think it's the perfect point to show how bad the deficit is now, and I don't think it's going to be as bad this season because teams like Leicester and Southampton have Premier League experience. Southampton are going to end up sacking Russell Martin and bringing someone in who's got a bit of nous to try keep them up. And I think Leicester look pretty good to the point where I think Leicester are going to be in a fight to stay up. They might go down in the end, but I think Leicester are going to be in the fight until the end of the season.
Yeah, I think Vincent Company is the name you've just described. Played fancy football, refused to change his style. Burnley fans were crying out for their like missing Deitch towards the end of last season, and he's now just buggered off to Bayern. Refused to play. Plays the right way, which the only right way for me is winning games. I don't care if we've had managers where we try and pass the ball around and people get irked when we've had 60% possession and done nothing with it. The only correct way for me is the way that means you win games. I don't think keeping the ball
But
necessarily means you guaranteed that.
that's it,
Um,
yeah. I think you look at it, keeping the ball works for certain teams. Arsenal, Man City, both of those teams, especially Man City, nowhere near as bad as what they used to be. But I mean, even look at Everton. For years, we were similar to how we played now under Moyes. It worked. We were always usually best of the rest, if not pushing in. Martinez gets in, has the right players to play the passing style of football. Bang, fifth, should have finished fourth and got Champions League that season if we didn't collapse a bit towards the end. It's the styles. You look at points under Marco Silva, we looked really good, and then the players bought in didn't fit Silva's style. The players, you look at that entire era, is this player don't fit this style. Swap manager just again, and it's just getting more bogged and more bogged. And I think I think the one advantage now to this Dyche team compared to when we had Lampard, Benitez, is at least the players fit the style. You know what? At least Felwell most of the time is, we mentioned him bringing in more players for if Dyche goes, but you look at these players and they bring in people who are going to work hard and have some stamina to run about. That's probably the main two things. We're not looking at a James Rodriguez type of player. The closest we have is Ndai, but Ndai still ran his socks off at Sheffield United. So I think it's one of those where now the one advantage to having Dyche, and I will say the one advantage to losing Dyche, and is why I can understand the wanting David Moyes is let's say we sack Dyche and bring in. I'm going to pick the one I want us to bring in, Corberan from West Brom. Corberan might look at this team and go, I can't play my style with this. Which, to be fair, the one credit I'll give him compared is he's been able to make players fit into his style. He's done it at West Brom. But, I can kind of see it that way because at least if we bring in a similar style of manager, because there is a chance Dyche just loses the dressing room and he has to go. There is a chance that happens. And I think with the way Dyche speaks, which isn't his fault, I actually much prefer the fact that he says what he thinks. I think it's a breath of fresh air instead of just kissing the fans' arse whenever they want to be. It's why I think it's why people like Lampard so much, didn't it? Because he always said the
yeah,
right thing. But I think Dyche just says what in his mind, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I think it's one of those where, like we've said, I think the bloke's just cursed in August. I think if we come back in a month's time and it's similar, we don't win a game in September, getting into October, then yeah, it might have to go. You can't lose 5, 6 games in a row. You just can't do it, especially when we're playing. One second, I've got it up here.
yeah. I was
Especially
going to
when some of
say,
these
looking
games,
ahead in September,
yeah,
we've got some easy
Southampton,
fixtures.
Southampton, Leicester, Crystal Palace are all winnable games. Southampton's EFL Cup, but beating a Premier League team in the cups, a nice little confidence booster. But I think
Yeah,
that's it. I think all it needs is a confidence booster. We go to Villa Park and get a point. all of a sudden we can beat Southampton. Well, Leicester and Southampton are in a similar level. We can beat Leicester. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a draw and 2 wins now. We haven't lost in three. We can beat Crystal Palace, and then with same thing. It's just about confidence, and we showed it last season. You
yeah.
know,
Leicester
but
away as well is a big game, and like, sorry to cut you, but also we like have Ipswich away as well in the start of October. They're
yeah,
two of the teams around us.
I
That
think
would be a good statement to make
yeah,
early.
the easiest example I can use here is April last year to prove how big confidence is. I've got it up near now. That's why I was kind of glad you interrupted me so I could start pressing and going back. We lose 6-0 to Chelsea, beat Nottingham Forest 2-0. Where all of us, every single one of us, are going, Liverpool are going to batter us. Liverpool are going to do, they're going to ram us. We're going to get battered 4-0. They're going to go on to win the league. A few of us were saying that. Oh, I can't wait. Liverpool are going to win the league because they're going to beat us. What happens? You lost the league at Goodison Park. We beat them 2-0. All of a sudden, the only game we lose for the rest of the season is to Arsenal, and that's only 2-1. Yes, we played Brentford, Luton, and Sheffield United. But to be brutally honest, we lose that Liverpool game. I easily see Brentford beating us. I see Luton nicking it off us. We won. We never lost to Sheffield United, but I think a confidence a massive thing, and I think all it takes is a good result against the team. You don't think you're going to get a good result again, and all of a sudden everything changes. And I think it shows how quick it is last season. We just lost 6-0, and then all of a sudden didn't lose a game until the last game of the season.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Luton's a really good example because they beat us twice in that season already at home.
I'll say we didn't beat them once all last season, did we?
No, so to then we could have very easily gone. We've lost to these twice already this season and folded. And we'd had better chances in that game as well, if I remember rightly. And we took the lead first. The Arsenal game was end of the season. I'm not even. I mean, you should count it, but I'm not even counting the Arsenal game. It was end of the season. Nothing to play for us. Nothing to play
No,
for them. We've seen it when we played City a couple of seasons back, and they'd
the
already won the
Aguero.
league. Yeah, we were on holiday already.
Yeah.
I think the players were just relieved they could walk into a game that wasn't a must win. Um, but I think you're right. I think it just takes a couple of wins to get confidence up. And we have a couple of games here where the Villa one, that's going to be a tough game. If we lose that, my head's not going to go. Leicester, I know it's away, but should be beating them. And Palace, we've got an all right record against them at home. There are winnable games here. Um,
The thing is, I think every game we've got, I'm going through fixtures up here until the 9th of November away at West Ham. So let's say besides Villa, because I think we're going to lose that. So let's say we lose to Villa. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, I think. Seven winnable games on the trot. You know, and all of a sudden, I'm not saying we're going to go seven unbeaten. We win three or four of those, draw two, lose one. All of a sudden, West Ham then becomes beatable. Brentford beatable. Man United away is beatable. I don't want to be delusional. I stopped at West Ham because, to be honest, I think West Ham are a better side than Man United. But I think you look at it, and then even after West Ham, Brentford at home, Man United away, Wolves at home, Merseyside out, and then December's where we get Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. It's like it is every year, and then December they just kill us. But I think that's how we've got to look at it, though. Again, I think we're still in a mindset where we're a relegation level team. I think, unfortunately, we're going to be in that until probably until we get like a 20-point safe season and we're challenging for 10th. I think that's how it is. I think when you're in a team in our position where you've been around this area so long, it takes quite a good season to change your mindset on things. So I think it's one of those where if we can get a load of points out in November, all of a sudden losing three in a row in December doesn't look that bad, even four in a row, because you look and go, well, we've lost to Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Man City, but look at all these other points we've got, and all of a sudden then it's it's about confidence, and I think the big problem now is if Aston Villa pump us, we're in a bad situation because then I think what is the confidence going to be like? Because we've all seen how quickly this team's confidence can just go. You looked at it after we had the nice little run after the points deduction, and then we didn't win a game for like 2 months or something. there's an easy situation here. I'm going to be brutally honest. We get pumped by Villa. We don't win a game until until they sack Dash because every team just looks at us and go, there's a very realistic chance we've got less than 20 points by Christmas. If you want me to be brutally honest, but I think a lot of that is pure. Again, it's purely based off confidence. It's purely based off can you get the result in these games? Yes or no? It's I think it really simplifies football when people talk like that. But I think with a team like us, unfortunately, it just is that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think we win some of these games, and I hope, but I think as well in like 2 months' time we'll be sort of looking back, thinking, and looking at like the Dyche out and just the how it is at the minute, and thinking, I'm hoping we'll all look back and go, no, we were being a bit silly there, and we are being a bit erratic. Onto pastures new. Like you said, it's confidence, but it's like it's not even simple. It's just sports psychology. Everyone, athletes of all different sports have the same problems. There's reasons bogey teams exist, and it's not because the teams actually. I mean, some are just better than you, but a lot of the time when it's bogey teams, it's a mental block. You've never beat them. Look at Goodison, the derby as well, and at Anfield. We've played some of the teams at Anfield that where the gap hasn't quite been as big and we still lost. We've lost to the kids that time in the FA Cup as well. That's a
I
mental
mean,
block. That's a
it's
mental
like
block.
yeah, it's like 10 years ago now, and it's bad that we have to go back this far. But that Martinez team was better than um the Liverpool. I think it was just after Suarez had just gone, and they just signed Balotelli and all that. We were better than them then. I think we finished 3 or 4 places. I think they finished like eighth. We finished fifth, and again, couldn't beat. I don't think we couldn't beat them at Anfield. We didn't until. But then look, when we did beat them, it's a confidence thing. Liverpool had a slide. We were. Don't get me wrong. That one we were slipping a bit under Ancelotti, but we've proven that season that we can take it to teams and that we could challenge in that season. And all of a sudden, look what happens. We beat them quite
Yeah,
comfortably as well in the end.
yeah, exactly. It's just it is a psychological thing with Everton, but I do think we'll be okay. I think feel like we just need a win, not just for confidence of the players and the coaching staff. I feel like we just need a couple of wins to settle the fan base as well, because
Yeah,
that once that settles, it feels like less pressure for one, but two, it just people will look at it a lot better, look forward to the games, not dread a Saturday or Sunday every week because you've got to watch Everton. Um, but you need points on the board to relax people, don't you? Which is what we need.
yeah, I do think we've got very lucky in the fact that an international break has come as well. If
Yeah,
we if we'd have had Bournemouth and then gone straight into now today, we'd have got pumped. Villa would have pumped us. They'd
yeah.
have absolutely walked all over us. With this, my hope is most of the lads aren't on international duty. I don't think
No,
the
we're lucky
Irish
that we don't have
lads.
many good players that get
No,
picked for their
and I
team.
don't know if Senegal are playing, but
Don't know.
I don't know.
Obviously, Ireland and
But
England today, but
yeah, most of I mean, Coleman went down in that, but is anyone surprised anymore, to be honest? But I think you look at it and go, he's got a lot of time with most of the players. I don't know how far off Branthwaite is, but fingers crossed it means Branthwaite might be at least ready for Southampton and Leicester.
I think he's training again next week, so fingers
There you go.
crossed.
So maybe by Southampton, Leicester, may probably more Crystal Palace. He's in the team, and I mean, if this doesn't show how good it is that we didn't sell him, I think you look at how I don't want to make this a yap session about Brantford and we won't, but I think it's clear how much better the defense is when he's in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're missing him big time.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those. But I think it's like you said, if we deep dive into September, besides Villa, because when we say a lot of people they hear us say winnable game thinks it means we're saying we're going to win. That's not what we're saying. We're saying it's winnable. It's a possibility. There's no there's no reason if everyone gets their head down, we can't leave September unbeaten. No, there's no reason for it. But again, you can say that about everything. But Again, a result against Villa, in my opinion, suddenly changes everything up until Christmas. That's it. I think it's just about just don't go out there and embarrass yourselves. I genuinely think it's that easy. If we play like we did against Bournemouth and lose 1-0, no fan's gonna come. No reasonable fan is gonna complain because we've gone and took it to a Champions League side at their ground.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, I agree. If we can get a point there, it'd be massive.
Yeah, I say I think, and then I think EFL Cup. Do you want me to be brutally honest? I know Dyche loves his cup runs. Couldn't care less. Could not care less.
Oh
We say
yeah,
it every we say it every season. Oh, a cup run would be nice. It's not happening. Get over it. It's not happening. Um,
nice to win though, just because, like you said, they're a Premier League club.
oh,
They're
yeah,
relegation rivals.
also one of those where you can look at someone like a Lindstrom and go, Lindstrom, this is a real game for you to, boost your confidence. Dixon, even young Armstrong, if he's as good as everyone in the club's making him out to be, and he must be to make him benches at 17, um, is a big chance. And I think it's the one thing that frustrated me big about Doncaster is that I wish Armstrong got more of a run out because at the end of the day, these academy kids, you look at them, they're very, they're vital in boosting confidence. Bloody hell, we had Tom Davis bossing it against Man City, and we've seen how he turned out. It was clearly off confidence and support. I think it's the best way to get the fans behind you.
Yeah, same. I agree. Um, that is the whole month though. I think there's a good place to end it. Looking at the September and that Villa game and how important that could be. A lot happened this month. Hopefully next month, no transfer window, a little bit quieter, and more wins to celebrate. Hopefully. But Cal, thanks for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Don't forget to like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your thoughts on the season and anything we've discussed. There's loads of talking points for you to get amongst transfers, Dyche, everything. So do that, and we'll see you.